Tonight on Let It Rip.
I say this is not democracy. This is not the way a republic is supposed to be run.
They took their fight over phony petition signatures all the way to the Michigan Supreme Court. After being denied, Republican candidates Perry Johnson and James Craig join us in studio tonight for an exclusive interview on their next steps. But first,
our movement is engaged, it's passionate, and we've been that way over the past 2 years.
During the early days of the pandemic, he started a grassroots effort fighting the governor's COVID restrictions. Now West Michigan's Garrett Soldano says he wants to make sure it doesn't happen again by becoming the next governor. Time now to let it rip. As you all know, our own Charlie Langton attended that super spreader event last week. Of course, the Mackinac Policy Conference where so many people ended up getting COVID. He's one of them. He's joining us via Skype. Also beaming in is Republican candidate for governor Garrett Soldano, not because of COVID, but because he's on the other side of the state. He's a chiropractor, small business owner, former Western Michigan football player, and founder of the group Stand Up Michigan, which played a key role in ending most of Governor Whitmer's pandemic executive orders. Garrett, thanks for joining us. Good to see you both. We're going to get right into it. We're going to get your campaign in a moment, but first I want to get your reaction to the Grand Rapids police officer charged with murder and the death of Patrick Lyoya. Did the prosecutor make the right decision here?
Well, I'm going to leave it up to the judicial system to figure that out. Would the unfortunate incident that happened with both sides. It's just one of those things where we have built this culture of fear in our communities with our police officers. And the Democrats and Governor Whitmer continues to spearhead that when she was saying that she supports the spirit of defunding the police. And we have to change that culture around. We need an emphasis on community policing. Our police officers, our men and women who wear that badge need our support. They need funding so we can get after the root of the problem, and that is crime.
But at this point, the prosecutor today, in making his charging decision, essentially said that second-degree murder was with the intent to do great bodily harm or death and not in self-defense. That's what that second-degree murder charge carries. It wasn't in self-defense. Do you have a comment on that? Do you have a thought on that?
Well, I didn't watch the entire video. We're going to have to leave it up to, again, the court systems. But I do know that guy, I think, was reaching for his taser. And as a person who went through the police academy, I was going to be a police officer. When anyone can get a hold of your taser and can incapacitate you as a police officer, we were trained back then, 20 years ago, that we have a right to defend ourselves.
When you take a look at the family, oh, go ahead, Charlie.
Well, let me ask you this, though. I think the bigger picture here, though, is race. I know a lot of people were lined up to perhaps protest. Do you think we have a racial problem here in Michigan? And if we do, what can you as governor do to bridge that gap?
I think we have a division problem more than anything. I don't think it's a race issue. And I think both sides of the aisle, I'm talking the right and the left, we're done with the division. And what we need to do is we need to have unity again. We need to start having conversation from a variety of different people, from a variety of different backgrounds and experiences to not only move this state forward, but our country forward. And as Michigan's next governor, that's what I'm hoping to do, is bridge that gap and bring unity to the occasion again.
Talk about how you do that, Garrett. When you take a look at, anyone who's a Democrat who's watching right now, watching the Republican Party and seemingly fractured here in Michigan, how do you then tell the state of Michigan, people from both sides of the aisle, that you're the guy to do that?
Well, I've been preaching about that for over the last 2 years, especially when I started my movement of over hundreds of thousands of people that joined Stand Up Michigan in a little over 3 days. And we've been preaching unity ever since the beginning. And you know what? You guys hit it. I played football at Western Michigan University, go Broncos. And in that locker room, we had 120 guys in a different variety of opinions, experiences, different variety of backgrounds. And we would have conversation in that locker room, and we would have difficult conversation, even arguments. But by the end of the day, we had one common goal, and that was to win. And that's the same mentality that I'm going to bring to the state of Michigan, is that winning attitude and then that having that conversation. We have to do that again.
Charlie and Garrett, when you take a look at the headlines today, of course, the Lyoya case that we talked about is one big one. Another big Michigan headline from today is the fact that another guy running for governor, Ryan Kelly, ends up, being investigated by the FBI with the January 6th involvement. What is he was arrested? What does that do to the Republican Party? And what do you have to say about what happened with him?
Well, I tell you what, my thoughts and prayers go out to the Kelly family. For the FBI to raid his home, I think it was in the middle of the night. You know, his kids shouldn't have seen that, especially when I think the charges were only 4 misdemeanors, and that shouldn't have happened. And again, this is Biden's FBI going after Republicans, Biden's FBI that have made statements about calling parents who have been standing up at these school boards domestic terrorists. And again, that's not the type of leadership that this state and country needs. It's time for unity again.
Is the proper way to protest an election to storm the Capitol, break things, go where you're not supposed to go?
Well, I made that comment too way back when the BLM riots were happening throughout the country. Hey, I'm all about peacefully protesting. You have every right. That's your First Amendment right. But I made this statement back in June, and I'll make it to you right now. Whenever that protest turns violent, whenever you start destroying buildings, your right to protest immediately ends. And as Michigan's next governor, if you ever want to attack our cities or burn our cities, I will be calling a National Guard to help out the police department to handle those rioters.
When you take a look
at... go ahead. Well, let me ask you, do you think the Special House Committee investigating the January 6th incident, do you think that they serve a purpose?
I think you have to investigate everything, and I think you should release all footage, not some footage. We need truth and transparency. So if we're going to have a committee, let's get this out to the public, because I think over the last 2 years, people are just sick and tired of being lied to. People are sick and tired of a narrative. If we give people truth and transparency, no matter how horrible that truth is, the people are going to figure it out. And that's what we have to bring to the table.
Well, one thing that you brought to the table is your criticism of Governor Whitmer and how she handled COVID. You essentially made that a large part of the platform as you run for governor. Is that enough to win this ticket?
Oh, no, I think we're evolving out of COVID. We haven't been talking about COVID in months. You know, the biggest thing right now on people's minds is not COVID. It's the economy. It's inflation. And if we remember, Whitmer was riding with Biden. And every time we go to the gas station, I mean, you can see the look of fear, frustration, and anger on people's faces. And we are in a recession, and a depression may be on the horizon. So it's time for leadership here in the state of Michigan, and it's time for the right person for the job, and I'm that guy.
When you take a look at Chief James Craig and Perry Johnson, they're going to be on our show a little bit later in this particular hour here. What are your thoughts on what happened to them? Were they ripped off?
Well, I tell you what, and I'm starting to hear more of that story, and I'm hearing, and I'm not for sure, but I've heard this from a couple people, that the Secretary of State knew some of these people that were working for these companies were doing fraudulent signatures, and they did not notify these campaigns. And to me, that's just wrong. Again, where's the truth? Where's the transparency? And I think James Craig and Perry Johnson is unfortunate what happened to them. That's for sure.
Mayor Mike Duggan ran as a write-in candidate and became the mayor of Detroit. You think these two guys have a chance to do the same thing?
Well, I tell you what, anyone that wants to throw their hat in this evil game called politics has my respect. And if James Craig or Perry Johnson would like to do that, obviously I'm going up against them. So I'm not going to say that I support them, but I would think it would be a wise decision on their part. I think it would be fair. And let the people vote. You know, if the people are blessed to have one of us to be the leader, then let the voters turn out on primary day and let that happen.
Charlie, turn the mic over to you for another question or thought.
A lot of the voters are paying $5, and we're looking at maybe $6 a gallon for gas. That's really on the minds of a lot of people. But would you support the governor's plan to give a tax break, even if it's temporary, to give some relief to the people at the pumps?
Well, she had that opportunity, I think, a couple months back when the legislature was telling her to postpone the state tax on gas. But she said she only wanted to do the federal tax. And so, yeah, we have to do everything that we can to help Michiganders and put money back in their pocketbooks. I don't agree with Governor Whitmer trying to put $500 into everybody's pocketbooks right now, because that's just going to increase inflation. But I think tax breaks on gas is just a common sense solution that we should be doing.
We're out of time for this segment. Garrett Soldano, Republican candidate for Michigan governor. We thank you for your time today. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it.
God bless you guys. Get better, Charlie.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Well, stay with us, because two of Garrett's former opponents join us, James Craig and Perry Johnson, for an exclusive right here on Let It Rip. You don't want to miss it. And welcome back to Let It Rip, where we're back in studio tonight because we're welcoming a pair of very special guests. That is, except Charlie, of course, because he has COVID, but he is joining us via Skype. And we thank you so much for joining us, Charlie. Continue to feel better. I know you're feeling just fine. Ready to let it rip. Here now are former Detroit Police Chief James Craig and Oakland County businessman, the self-proclaimed quality guru, Perry Johnson. Of course, both of them are still running for the GOP nomination for governor. And you may recall late last month, both were also disqualified from the August primary after a discovery of forged petition signatures. We'll get to all of that in a moment. But first, Chief Craig, I understand you have an announcement you'd like to make exclusively here on Fox 2.
Well, I appreciate that. And, you know, Roop, you and I had a conversation. Let me just say this. I'm not giving up. They have robbed me. They have robbed Perry. And guess what? Right in. There's so many people that have reached out through my campaign and said, Chief, you're a fighter. Don't give up. Continue to fight. We need you to do what you're doing. And guess what? I'm going to.
Can the next governor of the state of Michigan be someone who's a write-in candidate, Perry?
I think it's very difficult, practically speaking. People have a hard time remembering the name. You take a look, although it happened in the city, it's a much smaller universe. We have roughly 9.5, 10 million people in the state. So that's a lot of people to cover.
Yes.
And it makes it very, very difficult. I think you have to get on the ballot. That's why I filed in the court, federal court. And it's very interesting that we had the judge set the trial for the 14th. The only issue we have is that they want to start printing the ballots tomorrow. And we asked for a stay. So I'm hoping the judge grants that stay, because at the hearing before, they said there's not enough paper to print another set of ballots. So they would come back and say, yes, you should be on the ballot, but we don't have any paper for you.
You think you have a fighting chance even with this stay?
I think we should be on the ballot. And as a practical matter, there are two things you have to keep in mind. First, you have a situation where we had 2,400 and some that they said were valid signatures. They then said, okay, we have a variety of reasons why we want to exclude them. When we asked that we didn't think they were right, we want to challenge them, so can we see them? They said, no, it's impossible. They couldn't produce them. Now, I ask you, here you are, I convict you, I'm saying you're charged with murder, but I can't tell you who you killed. As a practical matter, they should give you a right to at least defend yourself.
To look at the evidence that they're accusing you of this forgery. Chief Craig, let me ask you a question. When you take a look at moving forward here, you heard Perry Johnson say you need the name. You got millions of people in the state of Michigan. You're on the network on Fox News pretty often.
Yes.
People know you in this country. They know you in this state now. Do you have enough name recognition to be a successful write-in candidate?
Absolutely. I absolutely have enough name recognition. But you know what I think? Perry and I need to be partners, because we want to clean out the swamp. And let me just say this. This is crap. You know it's crap. I have been approached by so many folks across the state who have called me and said, Chief, continue to fight. I got emails, text messages through my campaign that says, Chief, we know you were robbed. And you know what? I'm not going to roll over, because this is not about me as a candidate. This is more about the voters of Michigan. They deserve to have the best candidate. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to win. I am the best candidate to unseat Governor Whitmer.
Chief,
Charlie Langton, let's bring you into the fold here. You're listening to the chief right now. Your thoughts?
Wait a minute. I just want to hear. I know the announcement the chief said he's going to be a write-in. That's a good announcement. Let me ask the Perry Johnson, though. You're going to fight in federal court, but if you lose, will you join the chief? Maybe even be his running mate? Will you endorse the chief?
The reality of the matter is, as a practical matter, I'm a statistician, and I have to tell you that I look at the facts. Winning as a write-in, I know Chief is optimistic. When you take and analyze what needs to be done, it would cost, I estimated, approximately $22 million in order to accomplish this. And that's to put us at a position where we are at a severe disadvantage going into all the people that are on the ballot. But what I want to argue is the fact that they should not have excluded what we had. I'm going to give you these. For example, these are petitions that I did not turn in. Look at them.
All right.
Okay? They
Line
would
by
have
line.
said this is no good because the lines are crossed out. But
You have a couple crossed out lines here.
right,
All right.
and they claim that's no good. Now, these are all filled out.
Yep.
Notice they're all filled out? And you can call every one of them. They're all legitimate signatures.
Go ahead and have a seat with these.
Why
yeah.
did I not turn them in? I didn't turn them in because the font wasn't exactly right. Now, we both hire consultants. They are the ones that know the petitioners, right?
Yes.
So we hire them. They hire the petitioners, and they know what they're doing. I saw them looking over all of these petitions, and they scrutinize them. How are we going to ever tell if we have a forged signature if we do not have access to the signature? Think about it.
But Garrett,
how would you know?
let me ask you this. You ran your campaign. You spent millions of dollars on television talking about how, for all of your career, you've been the quality control guy.
Yes.
How did the quality control of the petitions get past the quality control guy?
I don't think they're right. I'm going to ask you this question. Let's suppose we had Republicans just looking at the votes for Biden. No Democrats, just Republicans. They come back, they say 250,000 are no good. We're not going to show them to you, but you have to take our word for it. What do you think would happen in this country?
Well, there would be a lot of people who are really upset.
That's exactly what they did. The Democrats looked at them. They said, we looked at these, we decided that 10% of these are no good out of the 68,000, so we're going to throw them all away. The reality of the matter is, I would stake my life on the fact that half of those petitions at least are good. The reason I can't say more than half is that I didn't
Charlie,
get a chance to say.
Charlie, they're saying they weren't. He's saying
something.
it wasn't gypped off.
No, I got to say something. Charlie, Ruth,
Go ahead, Chief.
can I say something?
Yeah.
I'm not buying it. Let me just say this. I have been the candidate. Double digits have led the GOP. In fact, you know, like I know, I was in a dead heat with the incumbent governor. And with independents, I was ahead. So let me just say this. I'm a cop. Been a cop all my life. Perry and I, we were hook-winged. Let me just say this.
Do you really think all of your ballots, all of your petitions were bad?
No, they weren't.
So Charlie, they're saying there wasn't fraud
we
here.
need to talk
Here's
about
what I want
this.
to get
Let me,
Chief,
Here,
Charlie,
let
Charlie.
Chief,
Let Charlie come here just for a minute. Go ahead, Charlie.
Listen, I understand the hoodwink stuff. I understand you should be on the ballot. But do you think that this was some kind of a Democratic plot to get the two of you off the ballot?
Come on, Charlie. Let me just say what I think as a cop. I've been a cop all my life. I don't think it's just Democrat. Let me just say this, and I'll put this out in one of my Republican opponents, she filed the first attack. So, and the reason why she filed the attack, she was getting 2-3% of the vote. I was in the 34 percentile. So it wasn't just Democrats. It was a Republican candidate who now they're trying to tout as the person that can run against Gretchen Whitmer. Let me just say this to you. I was a candidate. I can win as governor of the state of Michigan, not her. And you know.
But Chief, why did no one challenge Governor Whitmer's signatures? Was that oversight?
Oh wait, and you know what? I got to tell you, Root. Thank you for asking that question. She had 30,000. Was it 30,000?
Yep.
30,000. That's how many you're allowed.
How many of her signatures were good?
Well, why didn't you challenge that? Why didn't you challenge that, Barry?
Well, but let me just say this.
The reality of the matter is, as a practical matter, I have not been involved in politics. I had no idea that they had this kind of a scheme going. Keep in mind, they knew that they were already going to exclude everything from this one petitioner and never told anyone. Now, how reasonable is this? Think about it. And do you really think it's even reasonable that anybody can ever look at this, look at these and say, without looking at the signature, whether or not it's valid? And they're going to tell us all of these are invalid?
Let me just say this. Perry and I were the front runners, you know, and I mean, Root, I've been a front runner since I got into this. Double digit. I give it to Perry. He was running commercials every 5 minutes. I respect that. He was gaining on me. But at the same time, these other folks, let me just say this. The one person, the Republican candidate that launched an attack on me, guess what? 2 and 3%.
She wasn't even going to be on.
Let's go ahead and
let's talk about
let's throw out the
until we
question
were off.
about a guy named John Yob, who's is the elephant in the room right now.
You want to talk about John Yob?
I'd like you to ask you about John Yob.
Well,
what do you
I don't
think?
want to speak for Perry, but let me tell you something. Look, I've never been a politician. I don't know the mechanics of running a campaign. When I talked to John Yob,
by the way, incidentally, for those who aren't familiar, helped with your campaign and then jumped ship.
He jumped ship with Perry.
Right.
But here's what I know, and I'm not going to speak for Perry. John Yob, when I talked about the petitions, no worries. Let me tell you something. I'm going to get to the bottom of this. And when I peel back the onions, because I'm a cop, 44 years, I'm going to expose him because both Perry and I have the same issue. How in the heck does Perry have the same dirty petitioners working for both of us? There's a common denominator. Look, I'm a cop,
John Yob
and I
is a
think.
crook? Chief.
Wait a minute. Don't interrupt me.
And the Democratic Party are crooks.
Wait.
He's saying, is John Yob a crook?
I'm not going to say he's a crook.
There's no way that I think
I'm
John
not going to
is a
say
crook
that.
at all.
Here's what I'm going to say to you, Charlie. There's a common denominator.
I can hear him.
How does the same people doing Perry's petitioners, James Craig's petitions, oh my God.
Well, but 3 others too.
Look,
they kicked off 5 people,
most people
right?
know that there's some stink on this. I've been a cop all my life. Let me tell you something. Oh, I'm not done yet. I'm going to unearth it. But let me tell you what I'm breaking on your show. Yes, I'm going to run as a write-in because the people that have supported me, the momentum, I'm going to be the next governor.
Do you file suit if it doesn't work out?
No, let me just say this to you. If it doesn't work out, I'm going to run as the next governor of the state of Michigan. I'm going to file suit anyway. I'm going to file suit anyway.
I'm going to ask you a question that Charlie alluded to at the beginning here. If you use James Craig's name on a write-in and then he asks you to join him on his ticket, would you consider saying yes? Would you be his lieutenant governor? Would you consider it?
No,
would you consider it, Perry? I'll let Perry answer.
The reality of the matter is, I'm not interested in being lieutenant governor. I ran to be governor.
My man. I love that.
I ran to be
and
governor.
I are the same kind of guy.
That's it. We understand it. I go along with James Craig. I'm going to tell you once again, the reality is that all of the 5 candidates that had these tossed off, they used a bunch of petitioners. Now, granted, I got into the race, February the 13th, I announced, right?
Perry, the chief wants your money. He doesn't want your money.
Hey, wait,
guys,
Charlie,
we got to take a break. We're going to come back.
Take a break.
We're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to have final thoughts with James Craig coming up after the break. Stay with us.
Okay.
Final thoughts with Perry.
I don't think we can let the Democrats decide who should be on the ballot. And there's absolutely no question in my mind that we have a lot of valid signatures, but there's no way anyone can ever say how you can decide a signature without looking at the voter file. We need to change the election process. We need to change the petition process, and that's why I'm running for governor.
Let's see what the judge says, of course, with the stay that you talked about.
The judge is going to have to make a decision.
Chief, you have 20 seconds.
I agree with Perry, but let me just say this. I am the candidate that can unseat Gretchen Whitmer. This is why I was targeted, not just by the Democrat Party. Let's not forget that one of my opponents, she filed the first attack.
You're talking about Tudor Dixon.
I'm talking about Tudor Dixon.
We're going to continue this conversation the next time we talk to you. We thank you both for joining us. Thanks for joining us on this edition of Let It Rip.